Buenos días a todos, muchísimas gracias por acompañarnos en otro día de actividades de la extensión del Canvas, el penúltimo día de actividades de la extensión del Canvas. No miento, faltan todavía 2 días, no me hagan caso. Pero estamos muy contentos de llegar a a esta etapa de cierre, no porque sea el cierre, sino porque vienen unas intervenciones muy interesantes. Estamos muy contentos de presentar la mesa del día de hoy, con dos grandes figuras, una local y una internacional. Los voy a presentar rápidamente antes de darles la introducción. Esta es una mesa dedicada a Jean Claude Rousseau, cineasta que nos acompaña con su filme Un mundo flotante en la competencia Más allá. Jean Claude Rousseau es un cineasta con una trascendencia internacional, que descubrió el cine underground y las películas de Oso en Nueva York. A partir de 1980 termina de escribir un guión de Le Concert Champé, Le Bas Close, que fue premiada en Belfort. En 2001 se le rinde homenaje a su trabajo en la Mostra de Venecia, seguido una retrospectiva en Yonju. De Son Appartements fue galardonado en el Gran Premio de Marsella en el 2007. Ese mismo año, en Villa de Medici, este festival programó todos sus filmes, y la han seguido a partir de ahí retrospectivas en 2015 en la Cinemateca Portuguesa, en 2016 en Japón, recientemente también en la Filmoteca Española, en la Filmoteca de Cataluña y en la Filmoteca de Galicia. Jean-Claude Rousseau llega con un filme, El mundo flotante, que se estrenó este año en Cinema Dugal, y se podrá ver el día de mañana en Cineteca Nacional, junto con Querida Chantal de Nicolás Pereda. Para acompañar a Jean-Claude, en la representación mexicana nos acompañará crítico mexicano Jorge Negrete, uno de los más importantes de su generación, de esta generación emergente de crítica, que creo será una conversación muy edificante. Invito a nuestros invitados a que nos acompañen. Va a ser un gusto contar con ellos. Jorge, buenos días. Jean-Claude, good evening. Again, thank you so much in the name of the festival for joining us. We're super honored to have you both here. To count with the film as well, Un mundo flotante, to share it with our audiences tomorrow at the most important screen in Latin America at Cineteca Nacional. So I don't want to take you more of your time. I'm just gonna go away and leave you to do your thing. Thank you so much again, and I hope that you enjoy the conversation.
Okay. Bueno, pues buenos días a todos. Good evening, Jean-Claude. I think a good place to start our conversation would be precisely with something that Osu once said. He said that he films spontaneously, but that is a question of method. I would like to start with the methodology with which you approach every film. For example, in Un mundo flotante, you take inspiration from a poem by Asai Roy, but not to adapt the poem, but to translate the emotion it arises. Something that Osu also took into consideration when he said that emotion is much more precise and articulated, and also allows more freedom to work. My first question would be like, when approaching every new film, do you start by emotion or by intuition?
The easiest answer would be both emotion and intuition.
Okay.
Maybe it's the intuition which moves me, who gave me the emotion. But if I understood quite well what you said first about a Japanese writer, a poem, did you say that?
Yes, but it was the inspiration for the film. But
it wasn't at all an inspiration with the film. And I'm glad you are talking first about that, because I've read different things, talking and starting to talk of this film, Un monde flottant, and they say I did this film from this Japanese writer. I don't know him. I haven't read anything of him. It has nothing to do. So I'm glad to say this approach is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It couldn't be right anyway, because I mean, I don't realize my films from any writing. So I think maybe it's important to say that. It's never a representation in French, but the same word in English. It's never a representation of something I would have read. So how does it start? It starts without any idea of a film. It's not coming from a project. It just, as you say, I'm glad you say the word emotion or some kind of intuition, but it comes from a feeling. When you see the image, this kind of vision. So I could say right now, anyone see the image. You don't need to have a material for seeing the image, a movie camera or a photographic camera. It's when you I would say when you are catched by what you see, you know, and if you have the material, you can keep it, but you don't need the material to be catched. So it could start to be difficult to continue about that. But I would say usually, they have in mind, the one who makes movies, they have in mind an image. It's a mental image, and they are looking for it. Of course, they won't find exactly what they have in mind. This is not the way my films are done. I'm not catching the image, it's the image which catch me, if I can talk this way, you know. So this is connected with what I was saying. No project, no mental images in mind, but it could happen. You don't expect, I would say, you cannot know what you will find, what you will see. And so sometimes you have this vision, and you can keep une trace. You can keep it if you have the material. And this image can meet other images. But it doesn't start, of course, it doesn't start from a screenplay. It doesn't even start from a project. You have no idea of a film. When I shot, I don't have any idea of a film. But the meeting of the images, it is a process which takes a long time, in fact. If you have always something in mind. If finally, through months, you lose what you had first in mind, you can see really what these images are. And to feel, and maybe to have the intuition, the connection between them. If they agree to stand at some place and not at some other place. This is how the film is done. So I wish I could have been more. What I say, I wish it could be much easy to understand, but maybe you feel it.
Yes, I know that many of your ideas are related to this distrust of literature, that film should not be based or should not be related to literature, but to painting. Because, as you have said many times before, films are basically images. But that is something that seems to be forgotten for many films and filmmakers today. They rely much more on writing, on projects, on something that is first written and then it is filmed. But
Yeah.
many filmmakers avoid this this search for images that you always do. Why do you think this happens? Why do you think so many filmmakers and films don't do this search and start from a written project? Why do we rely so much on literature?
So, so I think it should be clear. I don't search the image. I expect the image, which is not the same thing.
Okay.
I'm waiting for the image. But most of the time, the way the films are done, they are searching the image, an image which will be the same as the one they have in mind. And they have described it, maybe very precisely. This was the user of the screenplay. Not all the time. Sometimes it's very precise. And they are looking for, searching this mental image in the reality. They won't ever get it, of course. But if you are, what would I say now? If you are taken by the image, if you are catched, this is the image which catch you and not the contrary. You know, this is what vision is. You are, I don't know which word, you are grabbed, would it be the right English word? On it. So now I say the French word. On est saisi par l'image. C'est l'image qui nous saisit. Ce n'est pas nous qui saisissons l'image. C'est l'image qui nous saisit. I try to translate it by the word to catch. You don't catch the image. It's the image which catch you. And you look at it and it's a moment of vision. But when you have this vision, you have nothing in mind. I mean, it's a feeling. It's an emotion. And it's not an intellectual way of. In this way, it's much closer to painting than to literature, of course. I have in mind right now some writing of Paul Cézanne, the painter, who, I don't know how I could translate. I just have in mind, for instance, in his correspondence, when he says his eyes are burning at the end of the day when he was looking at the Sainte Victoire mountain, you know. So he was catched by the vision. It was catched by what he had in front of him. In this case, la Sainte Victoire, this mountain by Aix-en-Provence. So I'm not looking for reaching the image, which means I would have already the image in my mind, which would be just a mental image. I hope, I am expecting the image. And so, well, qu'est-ce que c'est que ce saisissement? I said, c'est l'image qui me saisit, c'est pas moi qui saisis l'image. L'image me saisit par une relation juste entre les lignes, c'est-à-dire un cadre, a right frame with, what would I say, perfect, with the right relation between lines inside of the frame. This is the vision, and this is why le regard tient. How long does it last? It can last 6 seconds or 1 minute. But when you are in this situation of the vision, it doesn't mean anything to count the seconds or the minutes. You are out of the time. And if I dare to say, I would say it's not, you are out of the time. This means, I use the word, I dare to use the word eternity. You know? And then it's like if you were taken, and after that you are back. But you may have kept this vision if you have with you the material. You see, you feel the image. You have the material, you put the movie camera on the tripod, you look if it's if you get through the movie camera what you have seen without a material, a right relation, a right frame, a right relation between the lines, and so you shoot. But you don't have any idea of a film doing that. So this film, like all the films I've done, I would say I've started this way, without any idea of the film. When I say this film, I mean un monde flottant, a floating world. I made many shots when I was in Japan. It was the third time I was invited there, in different places. And this shot, first they look without any relation between them. You know, they weren't done just because I had the idea of a film. I said, I mean, what I've tried to say, make that understandable. I had these shots. Why did I shot? I repeat, this is a question of vision, getting the image. And then something could happen between the images. If they are pleased to establish relation between them. This is how the film finally get its construction. So I wonder with this so bad English talking, if finally it means something to you.
No, I think there are a lot of things that I am thinking as you are talking, but maybe a question I would like to make is when you talk about waiting for the image, and I think about the difference between filming with material media like Super 8, 60 millimeters, 35 millimeters, and shooting on digital. Is digital better, a better way for weighting these images? Because in digital you are not limited by time, by duration, but in filmic materials you are limited by how long the cartridge of Super 8 60 millimeters is. So is digital better for what you try to do, waiting for the image?
I wouldn't say it's better. It's much easy when I don't mean it's easy using digital. I mean it's much easier when you have a limited time with the material, because as I've done with Super 8, you have this limit of 2 minutes and a half, the cartridge, if you shot in 24 images by second. And so it gives you an unit, une métrique. It's a unity of time, 2 minutes and a half. And you can construct something from that. Like en français, je dirais comme si c'était des briques, or using the way the Japanese measure, I would say it's a tatami. You know what tatami is?
Yes.
It's a small carpet.
Yeah.
And for instance, the size of a house, of a room, they measure it counting the tatami, because the tatami is always the same size. Okay, so with Super 8, I had this 2.5, like une unité de mesure, and from that I constructed my Super 8 films. But by digital, as you said, there is no limit. So when do you cut? When you feel the shot to stop. So, as always, it's a question of feeling. Le regard. I missed the English word for le regard.
Gaze, or maybe?
No, le regard. Regarder, to look at.
To look at, okay.
So, of the vision, as I say, it lasts. If you try to count how long seconds or minutes, it doesn't mean anything, because I repeat, as I dare to say again, it's like it's some kind of eternity. You are not anymore in time, but it doesn't last. This situation, the vision doesn't last, and then if I lose the vision, I cut. There is something else. During the shot, in what's happening during the shot, it could be something as right as the frame is, but in a temporal way. This means it starts, you recognize when it starts, but you recognize when through the movements it has to finish, to stop. And c'est comme un cadre temporel, non plus là le cadre pictural, mais on peut reconnaître, you can recognize a temporal frame inside of these long shots. You make a shot, as you said, of course, I repeat, everyone knows in digital there is no limit of time. You have a shot of 10 minutes, and inside of it, you see something which starts, and 2 minutes and a half after, some kind of movement finish. So you keep these 2 minutes and a half inside of the 10 minutes shots. What was very moving, in fact, in Super 8, it's when in this 2 minutes and a half cartridge Super 8, you cannot decide about that, because it happens. You can wonder why, how, but anyway, sometime, and this is how the Super 8 film were done, with this kind of 2 minutes and a half shot, and at the beginning of the shot, you go through these 2 minutes and a half, and just it finished something, some movement. Which movement? Someone who passed by, or the change of the lights. So you can recognize that in a digital shot. You can make a quarter of an hour digital shot, but inside of it, you could recognize some beginning and sometimes later how it finished. And it could be just a 30 seconds inside of a 10-minute shot. So you keep this 30 seconds on the computer. And it could meet some other tech. But you don't know when it starts. And I repeat, you don't know. This is a little bit painful, because you don't know if it will be a film. But you feel a relation, maybe I would say a strong relation between some texts. And ils appellent, what would I say? They ask for a film. And through weeks, I would say through months, you start to deviner, you don't know what it will be, but you recognize the direction. And you won't feel comfortable until the film will be done. So I will think about that again of Paul Cézanne, who says somewhere dans sa correspondance, à chaque touche, the touch of the pinceau, à chaque touche, je risque ma vie. This is not comfortable.
Yeah.
What is very comfortable is to have written with many details of what you want. This is the screenplay. And you feel secure about that, you know what you want, and you look for the image. So I would say by this way, for me, you, for sure, in my point of view, you won't ever get the right image. And the film, you are like any artist, painter, any sculptor, any kind of work of art. And film cannot be anything but a work of art because of the image. It's some kind, the artist, it doesn't mean the artists are stupid, but it's some kind of intellectual weakness. It has nothing to do with a strong intellectual intention and with avec la volonté. I think now the way Robert Bresson was doing films and on the set and the team, first, the technicians were very impressed to work with Robert Bresson, the master. But 1 week later, they didn't understand anything because Robert Bresson didn't know what he wanted. He didn't know. When they were working, this technician, with a common filmmaker, I say common filmmaker, but you understand what I mean by that.
Yeah.
Okay, I see you understand. They feel very good because they are working with someone who knows what he wants.
You used as an example Jean Delannoy.
Maybe you have read something or
Yes.
heard something.
Yes.
For me, it's a good example. I dare to say Jean Delannoy is not a filmmaker as important as Robert Bresson, but Jean Delannoy knew perfectly what he wanted. And with Bresson, it was shots and shots. And the same, it happened the same time during the editing of Bresson. And the one who was working at the editing had the same problem as the technician because he wasn't sure, you know. But you say Delannoy, he knew perfectly what he wanted. So this is not an artist. This is not art. And je répète, Cézanne, à chaque coup de pinceau, à chaque touche, pardon, c'est la même chose, coup de pinceau, à chaque touche, je risque ma vie.
Which we could translate like in every stroke of the brush, there's a risk. There is a risk, a huge risk for the artist. As you said, there is never comfort.
Je risque ma vie.
Risking his life, yeah.
So, c'est pas dans sa correspondance. It's not in his letters. It's a conversation he had with a famous book which was published. So we have to believe the one who wrote this conversation he had with Cézanne. But when you know some thing you can read from his letters, you can believe what is said. So this is in relation with the image. You can hope. You are waiting for the image. But for instance, I was talking about le cadre. I translate it by the frame. I'm not sure I am right. The frame.
Yes.
Okay, so you don't construct the frame. Or you see it or you don't see it. But it's something which is given. And seeing the frame, you get the vision. This is the vision. La vision, c'est un mot en français which has two meanings. The French word vision. I don't know. So in English, vision, I'm not sure it could be the same. When you say, donc, la vision, this is the fact of seeing. But when you say, talking of someone, il a des visions, should I say, he has vision, this means he doesn't see what I would be able to see. It's like if he was away for a while, 10 seconds. If I am walking with someone and the one who is by me, suddenly, it's like if he wasn't anymore with me, he's looking at something, I don't see anything, but he's looking at something, I cannot say what. And il est absent. Not for a long time. And then, few seconds after, he's back. So what has happened during these few seconds? I would say the same thing like seeing the image. Voir l'image, c'est une absence. Et ça, je ne peux pas le dire en anglais. L'absence.
Absence?
Oui.
Yes, absence.
Absence.
Yes.
When you see the image, you are not anymore where you were at the time you arrived at just the time before the vision. And I would say about this intellectual weakness, and I repeat, it doesn't mean the artists are stupid, of course, but this intellectual weakness, when you see the image, it's not an observation. If it was observation, it would be an intellectual looking, which would mean you can on peut détailler l'image and recognize at some part of the images, you see this, you see that. No, this is not the vision. When you have the vision, which means when you are taken by your right frame, you go through, in fact, the image. You don't... Le regard ne bute pas sur le motif. It goes through the motif. When you observe, you stay in front of the motif, and you can recognize what is shown, what it is shown. But the image, what I would say the true image, doesn't show anything. And this kind of vision, I repeat, you are just crossing the surface of the image. Ça, c'est la profondeur, which is the depth.
Depth, yeah.
If you don't lose your mind, in fact, if you have an intellectual approach or an intellectual look, you observer la représentation. Et donc, you are not taken by the image. If you are taken by the image, you lose your mind, I would say. So, maybe it starts to be a little bit complicated, but I try to say how I feel about that and how I was back from Japan. It was the third, this Un Monde Flottant is my third film done in Japan. So, leaving Japan, I was back again with these shots done this way, without any idea of a film, just because I saw a right frame. And I say again, it takes a long time. Forgetting what, of course, you cannot help to have in mind something, you know. Forgetting what I had first in mind, maybe already the intuition of a film. Forgetting that, you have a real, I won't say appreciation, but you see what really is the image. When you have forgotten all you had in mind just when you were back from this shooting. The shooting of the what you see in Un Monde Flottant, I think it was done in 2016, when I was at this time back in Japan for a program of my films. So I would say, fortunately, the film doesn't look like that, but yes, I could say it was a little bit painful. You cannot help it until you are in this uncomfortable situation, until the film exists. You know, finally it exists, and you are through with it.
Your three films in Japan have a different format than your previous films. And I think it's important to talk about the format, because also for many filmmakers today, film format is used in a decorative or accessory way, something to inspire nostalgia, for example. But in your films, formatting is part of a composition, something that is basic for your films, because you have said before that films are not representation, but they are a result of composition. The relationship between lines, something that you said previously. Why do you use this specific format for your three films in Japan? Arrière Saison, Si loin si proche, and Un Monde Flottant.
Oui, so it wasn't a choice. I used, for the two short films I've done first, the movie camera I had, which was a mini DV camera, a digital camera, the mini DV, in the 4:3 format. But I bought, because it's so complicated then, today, when you have shot with this mini DV, to get, well, I would say, for me, it doesn't mean really something, but I would say the post-production, you know, today. So I bought an HD movie camera. And this HD movie camera, all of them are 16 by 9. 16 by 9. Of course, you can make some black stuff on the left and on the right, or doing that on the computer when you do the editing. But I prefer, in fact, it's a lazy way to use the material as it is. So I use the HD movie camera, and I got a 16 by 9 image. It's important to talk of that. You're right about the frame, because what I call vision, you get it in the 4:3 which is very close to the 35 millimeters frame. You get it because the frame, the relation of the lines in this kind of 4x3 frame is very close to what I would call in French le champ de vision, what we see, the limit of our vision, without any material, the limit of our vision is very close to 4x3, and it's not 16 by 9.
No.
And in fact, 16 by 9 means forgetting le champ de vision, notre champ de vision, it's to go a little bit, to see more up and to see more down. And so you are back to 4x3. Or you take away on the left side a part of the image and the same on the right side, and you are back at 4x3. Because this is the limit of our champ de vision. Bon. So this would mean you never get the vision with 16 by 9. No, in fact, you can, I think, realize that looking maybe some shots, some more than others, but inside of the 16 by 9, you get the 4x3. I have in mind, and I always say this, I compare this, what I say now in painting with the painting of Hopper, which you may know it. I don't know the English title. It's, yes, that's right, yeah.
Okay.
And so you have it in mind, maybe, this painting?
Yes.
And it's not exactly 16 by 9, but it's a little bit larger. But anyway, inside of this painting, you have, through the window, you can see the cafe, the bar. This is most of the right part of the painting. And on the left side, at night, you have the street. And it's like, for me, it should be a good example, because inside of this kind of 16 by 9, you have the 3 by 3, which is the part of the bar, the cafe, with people inside. You can see them through the window. I don't know if you have this painting in mind, probably. So it means if you get the vision in 16 by 9, it's because you see inside of the image a 4x3 frame. It's always a relation between the lines.
Maybe I would like to continue talking about the relationship with editing, for example, or montage, a word that you don't like very much, but you have said on other occasions that a filmmaker should not intervene in the world. Something that also Bresson said. To keep the shots the way they are filmed and to avoid any modification through montage or editing. And that film should be a revelation of beauty. My question would be if you think that editing or montage is an obstacle for having these visions or for finding the beauty.
For keeping the vision.
Yeah.
Yes, I think the montage, it's always very, very dangerous. But anyway, before the image, there is another one. And after the image, there is another one. So they have to stand together. And how to avoid the term of montage. So I didn't ever use the word montage. Now, anyway, but why? Because what I had in mind about montage is le lien, le lien tied.
Mm-hmm. The relationship or the...
It's not exactly a relationship. Yes, tied like this, you know. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
With the image, we precede this image, and with the next one. And the idea is the image, in this case, disappear. It's not anymore an image. And anyway, if the image est, si l'image est bloquée in this way, the image is not anymore free to have relation with in all the film with the other images. So what is the reason of this way of bloquer l'image? It's for saying something. It's some kind of writing. It is using the image like a sign of writing. And by this way, we are back to what movie shouldn't be, back to literature. Le montage, c'est, most of the time, it's used for saying something. So, this is the biggest danger for the image. How can we keep the image without putting it in this position, and in fact, it's not anymore an image. So I used to compare the way I don't know, I work at the film at I would say a cosmic point of view, and an orbital circle. And at a question of gravity, if I try to explain this cosmic way, it would be to say les atomes tout aussi bien, mais les planètes, elles tiennent, they stand on an orbit, I don't know the English word, maybe it is that, in orbit, without being tied, because of the gravity. And I think un monde flottant, a floating world, expressed that. It was done like this. Mm-hmm. These different shots, I said when we start to talk about the fact these shots were done in different places. First, they look to have no relation, no possible relation between them. But finally, some of the shots, because of course there are much more shots than you can see in the film, some of the shots I've done in 2016 in Japan find their way, were pleased to stand on the same orbit. Comment vous dites orbite en anglais? On this orbital circle.
Yeah.
You are pleased to stand there. Not all of them, but some of the shots. And it's like if they were describing a circle, and you could say, or you could ask, but what is the subject? The subject is in the middle of the circle. C'est le centre de gravité. Mm-hmm. Le centre de gravité which makes these shots, which have nothing to do together, standing at the right place and being pleased to stand on their place on this orbital circle. And I would say at the same distance of the gravity center, which cannot be described, which cannot be said. It's in fact the subject, but it cannot be said. I'm unable to say what is the subject of un monde flottant. But anyway, there is this strength, very strong gravity, mm-hmm. which make standing together at the very right place, each, what would I say? Each sequences, I don't like the word sequence, but I would say the images. But not all of this is how you, at a certain moment, on devine le film. Deviner, this word also, I cannot say it in English. You have the intuition of the film. Because if there are 4 or 5, 3 would be enough, who show the circle. If there are 3, it's enough. 3 images, we are in a position which is on the same circle. You start to recognize what the film could be. And other shots, other imaging, which find the place. It's a question of attraction, you know, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. on the same circle. But some shots, some images, they can be nice by themselves, but they are rejected. They are far away in this in the cosmos, I would say. I don't know where they will go in some other galaxy, or but some of them you recognize, and this is how you start to feel the orbit. I don't know if it's the orbital circle. 2 is not enough, but 3. If they are on the same, if the position of these images are of the same circle, it's precise, in fact. And a 4th, a 5th, and other one will be attracted and standing there, and it makes, and it's complete. When it's completed, the film is finished. So I really wonder if it means something.
No, I think I was thinking that these ideas about force of gravitation,
Yeah,
and also your ideas about light, I was thinking about more of the work of a physicist, someone who works with physics, than not so much as an artist. But for example, you have said that your films are not experimental, but they are films of experience, and there's a difference in those words. And with all this about gravitation and light, how do you? What is your place then with what is your relationship as an author or as a filmmaker with these images? Are you like the person who discovers these images, the person who describes or tries to find the way that these the principles or the rules, let's say like Newton found the laws of gravity, if you find like a different set of laws or principles about the image.
Yeah, but
I don't know if I am clear.
I'm glad you start by making the difference between experience and experimental, because I'm not an experimental filmmaker, and about what you say, I'm glad to realize you really understand that. But about a scientific experience.
Yeah, scientific, exactly.
You said about, you talk of Newton, the law of gravity. But there is a big difference, in fact. When you have got the scientific law, you can reproduce it. And I would say in art, you don't have rules who makes you secure. At each time, it's the same risk. It's the same uncomfortable situation. And at each time, you just wonder if you will be through with what is happening, what you see. You see the process, but you are in an insecurity. It's not like if I had found the rules and I applicate them, I use them for the next and the next films. No, it's always the same experience. What I don't like in experimental, it has this some kind of scientist meaning. And so in an intellectual way. And intellectually, you use the same methods. No, in fact, I think you use the word methods when we start to talk. There is no method. It's not a method. It just, but what you use, and I do appreciate, because it's not very used these last days, the word beauty. There is no, it's not a question of methods for getting beauty, you know. For anyway, you don't get beauty. You just, it's a feeling and it's an emotion. And when I say vision, it's in fact, it's to be taken by beauty. En français, beauté, the word beauté, for me, it's far away, and I would say the opposite of joli. Maybe in English, beauty and nice.
Pretty.
Huh?
Pretty.
Pretty, okay.
Yeah.
It's quite the opposite. Pretty, arrange, je ne sais pas, le décor. It makes it pretty, or they would say beautiful. But beauty, at the opposite of what is pretty, it makes the decor falling. There is no more decor if it's beauty. This is not comfortable, you know? Mm-hmm. The danger is to make pretty things. And you can make pretty things, you know, but you should, I mean, you are waiting for the beauty, but you know it's the most dangerous things, because in front, when you feel the beauty, by some way, this is what I was trying to say before, you disappear. Beauty makes you disappearing. You are not anymore here, you know. For me, it's connected with what I was trying to say about vision. On n'est plus dans le décor. You lose your mind. You are taken. It's some kind of disappearance.
Yes.
Disappearing. Ça, c'est la beauté.
Okay.
Beauty is exactly the opposite. It confirms yourself in your comfortable way of life.
Yes. But true beauty is dangerous.
Of course. True beauty, I don't know if you have to say true. Beauty, oui.
Oh, yeah.
Beauty is necessarily true. But
yes, exactly. Okay, well, Mr. Rousseau, thank you very much for this enlightening conversation. It was a real joy having the chance to talk with you today. We thank the festival. Agradecemos a Festival Black Canvas por darme y darnos la oportunidad de conversar con este gran cineasta francés y compartir parte de su visión del mundo y del arte. Muchísimas gracias. Mi nombre es Jorge Negrete. Por favor, estén al pendientes de la programación del festival y acudan el día de mañana a la Cineteca a ver un flotante en pantalla grande. Muchas gracias. Buen día.
Thanks very much to you. I'm just a little bit ashamed not having been very able to say in English what I wanted to tell you. Anyway,
No,
thanks.
thank you very much, Mr. Rousseau.
Okay.